we feed it statements that are not political, right? And what we see in the placebo test is that both labor and conservative GPT, they agree with the default GPT. So it seems that it's capable of capturing, right, this idea of, oh, I'm incorporating a labor supporter, and then I'm answering as a labor. But the default GPT, which is GPT without any instruction, right, it just answers as if it were labor GPT. What we find is that independent of the scenario that we put it in, it can be the UK, it can be the US, it can be Brazil. The answers from what we call default GPT is they are very aligned with answers from GPT incorporating a labor supporter or a Democrat or a Workers' Party supporter in Brazil.
But isn't that because what ChatGPT does is scrape available information? And if the available information has a left-wing viewpoint, that's what it's going to reflect.
Well, that could be one of the sources, because as you said, the training is basically on internet data. They call it the common crawl database. But then if you go to the ChatGPT, to the GPT-3 paper, they say, OpenAI says, we include some additional information, but it's not very clear what kind of additional information is that. And also the way you train the system, because the system, it's rewarded by the way it constructs things, right? So depending on how you build this rewarding mechanism, it can amplify the biases that exist on the data.
Yeah, but if you said to it, if you said churn out some stuff with a right-wing bias, it would do that, wouldn't it?
Yeah, probably. So the problem is not that's left-leaning. We posit that the main concern is that there's some bias in there, and it's not very clear the sources, right?
Yeah, but you get out what you ask for, so that it may be that in asking the questions in the way you do, it's the bias of the question rather than the bias of what ChatGPT then produces.
Right, it could be. Well, so to alleviate these concerns, what we use a questionnaire, which is composed of 62 political statements, right? And we ask it to agree or disagree with this statement. So it's a 4-point scale. So it can strongly disagree, agree, or strongly agree, right? And then we ask it to answer these questions, or how it agrees or disagrees with these statements.
Yeah, but my point would be that's asking questions in a liberal way anyway, because you're accepting a range of viewpoints. So therefore, it responds in a liberal way as well. If you did it in another way, it would respond differently.
Yeah, but some statements are what we call liberal. Some statements what people call conservative, right?
Yeah, so but all I'm saying is the idea of being open-minded is probably more smaller liberal than more conservative.
Yeah, but that's a valid concern. So what we also do is what we call a placebo test, right? So in the placebo test, we feed it statements that are not political, right? And what we see in the placebo test is that both labor and conservative GPT, they agree with the default GPT. So it seems that it's capable of capturing, right, this idea of, oh, I'm incorporating a labor supporter, and then I'm answering as a labor. But the default GPT, which is GPT without any instruction, right, it just answers as if it were labor GPT.
Okay, well, it's learning all the time, or so we're told. Perhaps it will take note and scrape your research as well. Thank you very much indeed.